It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
Let's
Doing
do
well,
this.
thanks.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Oh, man. I've watched a lot of corny shit in the past couple of weeks. You know, the baby just turned 3 and had a couple of sleepovers and stuff over here. And so those movies were crazy. But, yeah. I guess you guys probably haven't seen Encanto yet, right? The new, is it Pixar, Disney? Not sure. It's a cute story. I always like the stories that reemphasize that, you know, you don't have to have Prince Charming rushing in to save the day. And that was another one of those that believe in yourself. You can save yourself. So I always love those kind of messages. But this story is about a girl who I think her name's Mirabelle, but her whole family is like magic. They were gifted a magic, and like one can grow flowers, the other can see visions, and that kind of thing. Well, when she was little, when she touched the candle, she wiped it off on her dress before she touched her door, and she wasn't given any magic power. So, of course, your whole family's magic, but you. But one of the things that kind of got to me, and the kids did not like me pointing this out, Mirabelle wears glasses, but her mom is a healer. Now, if I was a healer, my kid wouldn't be wearing glasses. Okay. I mean, is that one of the things you would heal on your child? You can see. So, yeah. Of course, I got these little dirty looks like, how dare you question the Pixar, Yeah. But then later, me and Phil got sucked into a movie. Sucked in. It'll be funny when you hear the name of the movie. Twister.
Oh.
Now, I remember this movie, and I love this movie. I am a nut about bad weather. I know it kills people, and I'm sorry that happens, but to me, it's kind of flipping amazing. Just some of the scenery you get out of it, and just the sheer power that wind has, So Twister's right up my alley, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking, okay, I can see this happening until you get to the very end and they're in a barn in an F5 tornado and they go through the tornado. Now this barn gets destroyed around them. I'm talking tractors, cows, pigs, everything is gone, right? But they strapped themselves on a pole and they survived. Well, for one, we know the shrapnel alone would have shredded them, But when I'm watching this, I asked my husband, I said, I don't understand how people were okay with this, but they had a problem when Lois Lane was falling and Superman caught her. And everybody was like, oh, he would have shattered her body and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, but these people can go through an F5 tornado and not a nick, cut, scratch, nowhere on them. Belts are fine that they were strapped to, So it's kind of a, huh? But it is kind of eye-opening because, honestly, people, I guess the younger people don't understand that tornado systems that we have in place today haven't always been that great. Um, I lived in Wichita Falls when the tornado pretty much leveled the town. And, kind of like in that movie, there's no warning. When these things would happen, it was a meteorologist on a hope and a prayer that he was reading this stuff right, because we didn't really have a lot of data about it. Now, I'm not talking about Stone Age here. This was 70s, 80s, which I guess to some younger people that is Stone Age, but it really wasn't. It was once again showing us that our technology had not caught up with our times, is something as simple as weather. Today, you can't 100% faith base on your meteorologist, but 9 times out of 10 they're calling it right, and that wasn't always the case.
Mm-hmm. We used to
Before
make fun
weather-
of weather people because they had about the same batting average as most baseball players.
Yeah, it could be right. You took it as a suggestion, not a this is what's happening today. So to me, I guess watching it in that perspective, it's kind of like, wow. And they do show some really cool tornadoes, and, the visuals on that was really great and everything else. But I just had a problem with that ending. They could have cut it after they started getting all the data back and that kind of thing, instead of, oh no, it shifted. They had already had so many climatic points in that movie. They didn't need that barn scene. They didn't. It was okay.
They went for the flashy visual, and they also went for the heroes have to survive kind of mentality, and
Yeah, which
maybe
they
the two
did.
didn't go together all that well.
They did in the cornfield. When they sailed that truck right into that tornado, I mean, we got a good close-up look of that tornado and everything else, and, we got that almost death moment. But even them running to the barn, you see this fence ripping up beside them, but they have enough time to climb through a hole of the same fence that's supposed to be ripping up behind them. So it's kind of like, And I'm sorry, they would have been dead. They were so not fast enough, at all. And if it's whipping a fence around, there's no way they would have been able to stand perfectly and run to the barn, So the ending sucked, but the movie's good. It's really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I have heard good things about Twister.
Yeah. If you're a weather nut, it's awesome because, like I said, some of the tornadoes that they've either made or showed pictures of were pretty amazing, especially the one at the end. But if that's not your kind of thing, the story sucked, because there was kind of a little story going on between Helen Hunt and I guess that's Bill Paxton.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was kind of a little story going on there, but that's not what carried this movie. What carried this movie was the tornadoes and them trying to get Dorothy in the sky, and that would have been fine.
And the flying cow.
Yeah, the flying cow, which I felt bad for. He was making milkshakes.
It's a really, really good popcorn film. If you go into it thinking that, does it? Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the ending and all that. It was like, oh my God, how many films really kind of fall apart at the end where logic just really goes out the door because they're wanting to do a splashy ending.
Yeah.
Several. So.
Let's show them a tornado from the inside, which was cool, but it would have killed them. All of the debris. A tornado is black because of all the shit that it's picked up and is spinning around.
Well,
so you're talking a F5, which is 300 miles per hour wind, circulating like a blender is basically what it is. It's chewing everything up that it comes across.
Well, they did that because that was kind of the payoff for the entire movie, because the whole thing they kind of focused on was Helen Hunt's obsession with tornadoes, because she she lost her father. Spoiler for a movie that's been out 30 years.
Right.
Right at the beginning, when she was a kid, she lost her father to a tornado, and she just watched all that happen. So every time she got close, she just kind of froze and just and kind of gave into her obsession that I want to be in the middle of this. I got to experience this.
Yeah.
I've got to see what this is about, because it went back to her dad. So
Yeah.
So I think they had to do that. I don't know how they could have handled it and made it more realistic. But then again, the whole movie's not. I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that whether people go, yeah, it's great that they did this, but man, it's
they would have been dead.
well, just all
just
of
it being unrealistic.
Just be very unrealistic.
Yeah.
Well,
but then again, these are the same.
These
are the same people that tell you about flood. Don't go into flooding and don't try to stay around for hurricanes. The next thing you know, they're standing out in a hurricane. You're going, well, okay.
Well, storm chasers are the grittier daredevil of the meteorology world, because they will go in the middle of a tornado. I with them, I can understand it was more of a scientific, we need to get data, but a lot of storm chasers just do it for the thrill of it, the adrenaline push and that kind of thing. So, I wouldn't doubt there was some idiot trying to chase a tornado. Me, I'm going underground with my dogs. So, but yeah, I'd say it was entertaining. It really was. But the ending movie, even with the visuals and everything else, they did a really good job handling that. But it wouldn't have happened. That's, they would have been splattered everywhere.
Right. But the point was just to make it look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it did look cool. Like I said, almost all the shots they had of the tornadoes looked really good. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm a weather nut. That's the kind of stuff that I'll spend hours falling down the rabbit hole on YouTube watching. It's amazing, that just how quickly water or wind can change, and how destructive.
And if you've not seen the film, you need to see it for another reason. Philip Seymour Hoffman, this is early in his career, and he's just crazy in this film. He was the guy I was talking about, Sex Zone and all that kind of stuff. That's Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
And you think back on his career, and I mean, a lot of great roles and all that, but this is so far different from what he later more well known for. So it's kind of funny to watch that, because you kind of go, oh my God, that's him. It's like, yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, and one more thing. For those of you who don't know, I've probably said it about 1 million times, but today, The Batman is on HBO Max. So if you're hearing this Sunday, you've had a week to watch it. Next show. No, I was trying to convince the baby today that we needed to watch The Batman, and no, we don't watch The Batman. It's like, no, you don't watch The Batman.
Right.
Mimi wants to watch The Batman.
Why in the world would you let a 3-year-old watch The Batman?
Right. We'll go back to Encanto. But also, not only did The Batman, I can't get used to that, The Batman. Come on. Not only did Batman get released from HBO, there's also a new documentary with Tony Hawk. God, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it just dropped today also. So that one's pretty cool. That's the one that he broke his femur doing one of the last tricks on. So if you guys are curious, I know sometimes Nerd and Skating go along, so he's on HBO right now. I have not watched it, but I will drop a link that I found. Actually, my son sent it to me. It's an interview with Tony Hawk like 9 days after his accident. Now, he broke his femur, and this man is up walking around. So it was kind of like, wow. I mean, he's tough old bird.
Old
So
being
that's
the operative part there.
right.
I'm not a young
And
man anymore.
And in the interview that he does, like I said, I have not watched the documentary because they both dropped today. In the interview he does, he knows he's old, and he knows that his body cannot keep up with what he's wanting it to do. And he was like, a lot of these tricks that I'm doing it, and I'm like, okay, and that's the last time I'll do that. Well, this trick he was doing was I believe it was a 360 with a McTwist, and he really twisted it. And it was funny because that was supposed to be the last one that he ever did. So, of course, in true Tony style, just after he broke every bone in his body once before, he will do this trick again just to prove to himself that he can do this trick again, and then that will be the last time. But
right. I mean, if I can see where he would want to do it correctly and successfully
right.
for the last
one
time.
more time, because this one's not going to take me out, So, but yeah, like I said, I'll drop a link Sunday closer to the show dropping on that one. It's really good, and it was you see Tony, they have footage from the accident. And I don't think they showed the actual trick that he did, but you see him laying on the ground, and his friend is filming him, and he's like, "Dude, are you really filming me right now? I mean, what the fuck? I can't even stand up, and you're filming me." And he's like, "Well, I thought you would want this later." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right, but you're really fucking filming me right now." So. But yeah, a true determination. I can't say anything bad about Tony Hawk. I've never read anything bad. I mean, there was a snafu at one X Games, but if there's only one thing somebody can pull up in your 40-year-long career, you've done good. So, and I hate to even mention him again because last time I did, he broke his fingers. Good karma out to the universe. Leave Tony alone. Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool.
Nice.
He's no Super Dave Osborne, but okay.
Oh man, good old Super Dave.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, my week was not anywhere near as exciting as Tony Hawk's week.
Right. Mine will never be.
Mainly by my design, because I am not new. Never was a skater. I actually didn't do a whole lot this week either, or I didn't do a whole lot this week. I guess there isn't an either yet. I don't know. I'm so used to you guys saying that all the time that I thought of it as not being the first time. But honestly, the only thing worth mentioning was that I got to play D&D this weekend. So that was fun. Bunch of middle-aged people sitting around a dining room table. Blah, blah, and for several hours,
Yay.
Exciting.
Do you guys still wear the tinfoil hats and things?
No, you know how expensive aluminum's gotten?
Oh, yeah, we've been stockpiling it for years. It's fine. No. No, my LARPing days are long over. Not that there were very many of them. There were only a couple, but that was a long, long time ago. Yeah, no, this is just plain old boring sitting around a table. Role-playing games.
There's nothing boring about it. you guys get enticed with it. You get wrapped up in it and
Hmm.
see where it's boring at all.
See, and you say that, and it's actually, yeah, you are absolutely correct. It is extraordinarily engaging for the people who are actually doing it. What blows my mind is how all of a sudden, a couple of years ago, it became ridiculously popular to watch other people doing this.
Okay.
And I mean, some of my friends are big into Critical Role and into actual play RPG podcasts, and I mean, I'm happy for them. I don't have much patience for it myself.
Yeah.
You're literally just sitting there watching. I mean, if you're really paying attention to it and you're really getting into it, great, that's good. My main suggestion would be to try it for yourself instead of watching other people do it, because it is a very different experience.
I think that Stranger Things did a lot to bring popularity back to D&D. That's when I started noticing the more push and more people asking and that kind of stuff about it.
Oh, sure, it's definitely a factor, no doubt about it. The Stranger Things, I think, has a huge nostalgic calling to it. That is my understanding. The people who played D&D back in the early '80s are mostly the same people who got very into Stranger Things.
Hmm.
I don't know. There's something wrong with my nostalgia chip. It doesn't work quite the same way as other people's. The idea of watching early teenage kids, I don't know. I just couldn't bring myself to even try to get into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not my speed. I don't have a ton of nostalgia for the '80s to begin with. That's probably a lot of it, but
Really?
I know, shocking, right?
See, I think I figured that out. I think you're really from like the 80s and you had a time machine mishap, and that's why you're so against time travel and you got stuck there for a while, right?
I got stuck there a lot longer than I deserved to be, that's for sure. Basically all of it. I don't know. The '80s, yeah, I mean, I think it's entirely how I was raised and what was going on in the house at the time. But yeah, the '80s seemed weird and awkward and fake to me from the beginning. I'm going to entirely blame my childhood for this, without it actually being a negative thing. I don't think it's a problem. It's not a problem for me anyway.
Yeah.
So, not that this was supposed to turn into therapy or anything, but
Too late.
right.
I liked the cartoons of the 80s. They can keep the plastic and neon, though. And fishnet. That should have all stayed in the 80s.
Yeah, somehow it was all a weird reaction to the hippie movement from the '70s, and it went too far.
The product of free love.
It went from hippies to preppies.
Honestly, almost more the consequence of free love.
Right.
But
yep. We were the hugs, not drugs, and don't touch me people.
I think we definitely grew up into the don't touch me people. But maybe not in the same context you're hinting at.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay.
that's all I got.
All right, Les.
I want to live Mike's life. I read a couple of Doc Savage novels. I watched a couple of movies. I watched one last night called God Bless America, about a man who is pretty tired of his mundane life, and he goes on a killing spree. And what a high point.
Oh, it was like a purge, huh?
And similar too. And on the way he picks up a teenage girl, and who wants to join him on this mission. Of course, he's against it, but her part was extremely funny. It's not a serious movie, so it was something that you could just laugh about, have some good time, and walk away from.
So a serial killer comedy.
Yes, essentially that is what it is.
Interesting.
I did not know that Bobcat Goldthwait was a director.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He has been for a while.
Writer and director.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and as one that knew of Bobcat Goldthwait, it made that much more interesting. The cast was a little different, but I had a good time watching.
That's cool.
So I enjoyed it. I also picked up a comic book this past week. It's still available at your comic shop. This is from DC. It's called Rogues. Rogues is a story of Leonard Snart, Captain Cold, at an advanced age, and he decides that he wants to pull off the big heist. He wants to get the gang together. We're talking Bronze Tiger, Weather Wizard, and the James Jesse. Well,
the Trickster.
The Top. I'm sorry, the Top and whoever I said have passed away, so they're not part of the Rogues group. But this one is a fun read. Yeah, the language is a little stiff, but it's fun to think about this group that planned to steal the world's largest stockpile of gold. And that is from Gorilla City and Gorilla Grodd. So it's starting to ramp up now. I praise it because it's kind of fun.
If they're stealing gold, shouldn't I have brought the gold tiger instead of the bronze? Never mind.
Wow.
We're going to let that sink in, folks.
I was still trying to get over the stiff language comment, but anyway, with Captain Cold.
I let that one go.
That was the one you let go.
I
in
latched
favor
onto
of
the bronze
the
tiger.
bronze thing. Okay.
Well, that one does sound pretty cool, though.
It does.
I like villain stories.
Well, this one definitely is a villain story, so I'm looking forward to part 2. Just looks like fun.
Cool.
Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
Okay.
I'll have to check that movie out.
Okay, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For me, I don't really have anything much this week. Just not a whole heck of a lot. Just had other things going on, that kind of stuff. So
That never happens. I mean,
Never.
never happens. So we'll see what I have for next week. So all right. Before we get into this week's discussion, I do want to point out that we do have a Discord that y'all are more than welcome to come join us if y'all want to hang out with us. Discord is free to sign up, and the app is available not only on their website, www.discord.com, but also on all the app stores. It's free. So we do have an invite on our homepage, which is www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Just click on that image, and it'll pop you into our server. We post a lot of news items, some fun stuff for discussion. We'll have some fun activities. We'll do like a movie night or just a hangout, or maybe have some other kind of monthly activities. So it's been a blast. We've had it going, and it's going to be 2 years next month, believe it or not. So hard to believe it's been that long, but it has. And so y'all are more than welcome to come join us if you want to hang out with us.
yeah, we're fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
If you don't believe us, just ask us.
Mm-hmm. We'll tell you again.
Okay. We are continuing Sci-Fi Month. Last week we discussed Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I think we had some fun with that one. We should have some fun with this one. I would think.
We're moving into the 80s now.
Yeah, we're in your wheelhouse there, Mikey. This year marks the 40th anniversary of Tron, which was brought to us by Disney. And this is one of the earlier CGI films, or films that use some CGI. Stars Jeff Bridges, Bruce Boxleitner, David Warner. Of course, David Warner always has to play the bad guy, and he's so good at it. Sidney Morgan and Bernard Hughes. And this is the story of Kevin Flynn, who was played by Bridges, who is a computer programmer. He's developed all these games, and got the games stolen from him, and was given credit to David Warner's character, who became boss of the company, and Flynn was gone. So he's trying to get information to where he can show that, hey, these programs were mine. I created them. I designed them. And next thing you know, he's in the game. He's in the game. He's in the computer world, having to fight for his life and try to get that documentation to say that, hey, yeah, these programs are mine. So with that, let's discuss Tron.
I won't say this is my favorite because it's not. It wasn't that bad though. I've only seen this one, and honestly, I mean, you guys knew I was going to mention it. If Tim Burton's name wouldn't have been attached to it, I don't know if I would have watched it again. I watched it when I was younger because, of course, I was into video games and coding and all that other kind of stuff. But watching it now, because I rewatched it for the podcast, it's kind of kind of reminds me of like Minecraft when it was open source. And then you had Microsoft come in and buy it out and kind of, took over that kind of thing and locked it all down, and it's no longer open source. And, that's kind of what this, if you ever try to explain to somebody how that kind of thing works with open source coding and non-open source coding, this movie's perfect. I mean, I guess Tron was the antivirus software that was coming in and kind of cleaning everything up. And, I liked how they include like bytes and that kind of thing too. In the 80s, I guess it kind of summed up what we kind of thought about computers, what they would look like, or, it was supposed to be very futuristic. And I don't know, I guess some of it could hold up to time. I mean, with the effects, it definitely reeks of 80s, but like I said, it's not that bad though. It's a cute story. Yeah, it had its funnier moments too. So,
I mean, yeah. I mean, at the time, it looked incredible.
hmm
Yeah, now not so much. But then again, we're talking 40 years, and
yeah.
some advancement in computers, a little bit.
Well, and you had to make movies like this to see how far you could push it.
Yeah.
It was still a technology that we're playing around with. You've had people come in, like, I don't know who did the CGI for Lord of the Rings, but I've talked about that, who've come along and dominated the field. But, you had to have a starting point. And this was definitely one of those that showed us this could be, I think with the the black and white and the whole costumes and stuff, they probably didn't spend a lot on that kind of thing. So maybe the actors were paid better. I don't know.
Well, they didn't spend a ton of money on this movie in the first place. So
Yeah.
$17 million was the
$17
budget.
million.
Yeah. And probably a lot of that was ate up with the CGI. A long time ago, I can't remember what the podcast was for, but I had brought up Jim Henson and I think it was the Magic Jim Henson Hour, where he kind of went behind the scenes and showed us how the puppets and things worked. Well, in one of these, he had this little animated, I can't remember if it was a paper clip or something now, and it kind of poofed on the screen and kind of twirled around. And at that point, just a little 30-second animation was like months of work, and just to process it and render it. So when you put it in terms like that, to see a whole movie that's done that way, I mean, there was a lot of hands on deck, a lot of hands on deck. Because that was probably around the same time of the Jim Henson stuff.
Now, let's back up a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a whole lot of this movie was CGI. I think this was majority practical effects.
Right.
We had some minor effects that were CGI because CGI wasn't a thing yet.
Well, and it was expensive.
I mean,
well, it was
hell,
starting
video
to be
games
a
were
thing.
barely a thing at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole thing was kind of based on.
And the video games of the 80s were so pixelated. I mean, so extremely pixelated. To where I think it did clean it up. To where if you were a fan of video games, it would, it was kind of cool to see the inside of one. They could have picked a better game, but,
They had to make up their own games for this. I mean,
they had Pac-Man in there.
did they?
Yep.
Yes.
They had
Okay.
Pac-Man when they were...
There was a Pac-Man cameo.
Only
Yeah.
barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
They were...
And, in the 80s, out of all the games that I loved, Pole Position and all those kind of things, I hated Tron. It was kind of one of those, like, eat the snake kind of thing, don't hit the line or you die. It just... Yeah.
Right. The majority of the game that was Tron was like a 45
Gladiator.
second part of the movie
Yeah.
because it was honestly the easiest thing to turn into a video game.
Well, and it wasn't so much a video game. I kind of looked at it more as a mainframe. They had games inside of it, but it was more of like the brain of a computer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I also thought it was interesting, though, that Master Computer started out as a chess game. What other computer AI gone awry started off as a chess game? Had Matthew Broderick in it.
Almost all of them.
Yeah. So it's kind of like,
And honestly, War Games was not that long after Tron.
Yep.
oh, was it? Yep.
Yeah. War Games is 83. So it's a year later.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's, I mean, that's how. I mean, straight up, that's how AI started.
Well, that's
I
what.
guess
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
was
Thinking about the
like-
next move and stuff,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
or predicting the next move.
Right. Being trained to make its own moves.
Yeah.
And then it all goes haywire from there, of course, because that's the exciting part. We can have a bad guy without actually having to pay a human to do it.
Yeah.
That's what War Games was, anyway. I mean, Tron, we had David Warner, which, that's never a bad thing.
Right.
Never.
I straight up did not know he was in this movie. I had never seen this movie until 2 weeks ago.
I liked how they also pulled people from the outside on the inside and made them computer people. So like him, not only was he the main guy at the company, he was the master brain, and they all kind of had dual roles they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sark was his computer program, just like Tron was the program for Alan was Alan's program. So
yeah.
they would resemble each other.
Yeah.
You remember Clue was
Flourishing Flynn's at the beginning.
Flynn's program. So I thought that was cool that they did that, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's their
It's the easy way to make the association.
Yeah.
So I guess Lori was in it because she was working on the laser.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was in. I mean, she worked in the system too.
Okay.
And I'm sure she had some other programs, but they didn't really spend that much time on her character or the Bernard Hughes character. But you could probably associate the laser or other programs. So
Yeah. Okay.
So what was your thoughts, Mike?
I liked it. I liked it more than I thought I would. Because, as was brought up before, I mean, I went into this. I never really watched it before because it was a little too 80s for my taste.
Mm-hmm.
But I managed finally to set that aside, and I watched it, and it was honestly it was noticeably better than I expected it to be. I was impressed at kind of how prescient it was. I mean, this is a story about crawling around inside of computers and video games when computers and video games were brand new on the market. I mean, you had only, I mean, they weren't even called PCs yet, but you had PCs for a few years.
Yeah.
You had video game consoles for, I don't know, a handful of years at most. And so they come up with this story where they send Jeff Bridges inside the machine and he has to fight his way out, basically. That's a pretty cool premise for 1982.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is it today? It's been done, but you know what? These guys did it first, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I kind of latched onto that pretty early on in the movie, and so it made it that much cooler for me. I thought it was. I thought it was. I mean, was it a really deep story? No, of course not. It's a popcorn film.
Yeah.
But as popcorn films go, it's I think more meaningful than most people give it credit for. Certainly more than people gave it credit for 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It's got some. They did some fun little things with some. They had some action scenes in it. There were a couple of cool little performances. I mean, mostly from the side characters, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard for Jeff Bridges and Bruce Boxleitner to do anything particularly interesting with this script, but I mean, it works. It's not Oscar material, but it works. And when you kind of get over all the kind of neon colors and straight lines and all that shit, it's pretty good. It's got some.
Did you guys catch the nod to The Day the Earth Stood Still in it? On Alan's cubicle, where he was writing the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the poster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah.
Yep. Between that and Flynn basically owning an arcade.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of nods to geekdom and some pretty nerdy sci-fi stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Which was fun. Before it was cool to pick on nerds.
They will have their revenge.
Just a couple of years later.
And when Ram was dying, and he was like, "One more thing," I almost expected him to say, "Don't forget to renew your extended car warranty." I mean, it was a dramatic pause, but he worked for an insurance company, or he was the program for an insurance company. So, you wanted him to. I think if the movie was made today, they would have made him say that.
If they were aiming for comedy, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And rightly so, I think. Yeah, if you parody this movie today, that's the kind of shit you get, for sure.
Okay, Les, your thoughts.
When I got late into the movie, I was asking, God, it's got to be over in a few minutes. It built up. It had a strong foundation. And all of a sudden, it laid the largest egg man has ever located. You're having the duel, and all of a sudden, it's like watching Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Because all of a sudden, it just ends. And you go, what the hell happened?
Yep.
In this, reference to War Games, I was expecting it to say, do you want to play a game? And I was hoping for it. And I know War Games came later, but seeing it now, it would fit so easily.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't watch this for the acting. Because the only acting was by was a Bernard Shaw. No, Bernard
Hughes.
Hughes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Although he looked like a pile of shit late in the movie.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
program was not attractive.
No. So he looked like a runaway from a donut shop. But the acting was not that good. Bruce Boxleitner has done some really good things, although I don't consider Scarecrow and what's her name?
Mrs. King.
One of them.
King.
So
that was him trying to be funny, which he shouldn't try to be funny.
he played it pretty straight. I will say that. Yet, if you're going to this movie and it starts up and you think Tron is the computer or Tron is a game or something, it's kind of a disappointment to find out that Tron is part of a game that's trying to overthrow the controller. And we've seen that several times. You think about it, even some of the Terminator movies were of that ilk, try to overthrow the computer. So it was okay. It's not one that I would sit down and watch again for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a
But
couple
I
of
did-
years, we'll trick you into watching it again. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Sure it will. Just do me a favor and don't tell me I have to watch Tron: The Legacy, because God, that is awful. After the first one, I said, it's here on Disney, I'll go ahead and watch it.
Oh,
No, don't waste your time.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
me either.
Lucky you.
I wasn't brave enough to try that.
Right.
Well, it
Yeah,
does have
it's-
Jeff Bridges in it again.
It's a little bit of a mess. Yes, I will agree
Well,
with
and
that.
I think this one worked because the time it came out. I think if you tried to do this today, well, we kind of did. I mean, we had to Disneyfy it and we turned it into Wreck-It Ralph. I mean, you know, it's like you guys said, it's been done and it's been done better. But I still feel this is a stepping point of where we started to go, what if we played with a few knobs and did this, you know? And of course, the coolest part of the movie is the effects, and my man was working on them. So
Anyway, he did it all.
he did it all with
Yeah,
one pencil.
him and probably 50 other people.
Oh yeah, and it's part of the reason he's not credited for it is because there were so many people who did it, you know.
Right. This
But
is before
when
the
Tron
15-minute
came
credit
out-
sequences we have now.
Mhm.
Once he saw what he could do, he got the taste for it.
Yeah, he did that one blue line in that one scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it was still visible.
Well, and I think from here he went to Fox and the Hound, which, you know, the saddest Disney movie I've ever seen. So, you
Sad
know,
in what way?
when she has to give Todd up and leaves him there, and you know when Copper comes back and they have to fight, it's just it was sad. But once again, that was another stepping stone. They pulled Burton off because they're like, whoa, wait a minute. This is kid stuff. We can't be this sad, and you know. So then he pitched them Nightmare Before Christmas, and they're like, no, we don't want him on acid either. So maybe we should cut our ties here. Boy, and they ate all those words back, didn't they?
Oh,
He's
yeah.
been
And they wrapped them in
cashed out.
$1,000 bills, too.
Oh, big time. I would have taken some major ass kissing on my part because you canned me and now you want me to work for you again?
Right.
How about you work for me?
That's fine. You're going to pay.
Yep. And my wife, too. But yeah, like I said, definitely a stepping point of where things were about to go. I think Lucas has already showed us some of that. And, you know, this was another one of them footprints.
Okay, well, for me, this is a fun film. I like the film. Yes, there's issues with it. I mean, y'all already pointed out the acting. One of the things that it's one of these things where I just accepted it when I was younger, but after other viewings, I'm going, okay. Did anyone else have issue with when Flynn returns and all of a sudden here's this printout basically saying Flynn created all these games and that's the golden ticket. That's what makes him the head of the company.
Yeah.
You know, when I was, like I said, when I was younger, I didn't think anything about it, but as I got older, I'm like, that's just a goddamn printout. You could just pull,
Right, you could have typed that up in a text
document.
program.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Actually, I could have done something better looking in Photoshop than that.
Well, Photoshop.
Not in 1982.
Yeah,
You couldn't have.
True, but yeah.
But it just is like, and that's yeah. I just go, okay, you know. But
yeah, it was a little
see him on a
flimsy.
jet plane.
The whole ending was a little flimsy, but
Yeah.
yeah,
it wasn't about the ending. It was about the really expensive looking car chase before that.
Right.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the effects, you know, the what was done CGI, which is, you know, like you said, the bikes and the ships and then just the landscape of the computer world, that looks great. I mean, to me, it still looks great. The glowing costumes and all that, it does get on you after a while. I will admit that too. It's just a fun film, you know, for what it's worth. I mean, I just like the film.
And although the ending was cheesy, it was pretty cool when Sark threw up electric Fruit Loops and turned into a bad Power Ranger.
A huge bad Power Ranger.
Yeah.
That
That thing
cool.
looked like a Gordon from Wish. So yeah, after all these other cool things, it's like, let's give you a Power Ranger and a Zordon. There you go. It would have been Gordon because it was from Wish.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of goes along with what you were talking about with Twister, with them in the middle of F5 Torteno. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
you gotta amp it up for the ending. I mean, this is it. We got. There's got to be a big payoff.
Pull that
You
all
got
the
to
stop.
do this. Yep. So.
Yeah, I wish they had been a little more creative with the stops they were pulling out, but
I think they could have been greater with the master control computer. That he looked better when he was talking on the computer screen than when you actually saw what he was. You know.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been cool if they actually had the master controller, master computer, whatever, actually kind of manifest itself into some kind of being where he could fight Tron instead of just going, okay, Sark, you just lost, but I'm going to give you one more chance and give you a little boost.
Yeah. And I know I kid, but even something like they did with Zordon, just a face there and the hologram kind of thing would have been, you know, a little cooler than the red spinning top.
You could argue that the deal with that was that there wasn't a human analog.
Yeah.
Because it was an actual AI. So I think the face might not have been the important part. I think actually it not having a face was probably more the point.
Well, it had a face.
Well, but it wasn't a real face. It was obviously a fake face.
All right.
Because it was obviously, or it was supposed to be obviously a fake entity. Nobody wrote it. Everybody else looks like their user. The MCP didn't really have one because it had evolved. Boy, are we overthinking the ending of this fucking
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, my deal is that's kind of groundbreaking in its time. In 1982, that's a cool ass idea.
Yeah.
It didn't look fantastic on screen, unfortunately, because they didn't have the tech to do it. But it's a cool idea. It just
The thought was there.
it would have been nice if they could have finished the script well enough to actually implement the idea effectively, or if they had double the budget to make it look good.
Yeah.
Would be interesting to see what they would have made it look like if they could have made it look like something.
Yeah.
But the choice not to, I think, is also interesting in its own way. But yeah, other than that, the ending was meh.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I started to get a little bored when it turned into what was essentially a car chase.
Yeah.
With the one little baby ship and the huge industrial ship coming after it. There wasn't much interesting happening at that point.
With a nod toward Star Wars.
Yeah, the trenches and all of that.
Yeah.
That was less than subtle, but yeah. Also, that the only thing that could actually screw up the AI was to throw an actual human into it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But they were right.
The only way to screw things up is to give it to people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or a toddler.
I think technically toddlers are people.
Eh,
They're proto people.
some days.
They're proto people anyway.
Right. Some days.
People in training.
Other days you're looking for the pod they crawled out of.
Whoa. That's a different movie, dear.
Right?
we may get to that eventually too, but yeah.
Say it's sci-fi.
It is.
So I'm half on topic.
I bet we could come up with 4 Pod People movies for next year.
Right? Does cotton candy count as a pod?
No,
Does
cotton
Pod
candy
People-
is a gateway drug. That's what cotton candy is.
Does Pod People count as a pod film? Never mind.
He'll be here all week, folks.
We could accept it just on the title. It's fine. Anything to throw some variety into that idea. I'm not saying it's a good idea.
As the master computer said, end of line.
Okay, well, on that note, unless there's any other final thoughts, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up and take a quick break, right?
Sounds good.
Yep,
Sure.
got it.
Okay. Well, we will be right back. And we're back, and it's time for our Geek News for You segment. What we do is we come up with a couple of news items that bring to everybody's attention and kind of discuss a little bit. And for this week, it will be Mike and myself. So, Mike, would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. I'll go first. My story is about a benefit. It's a benefit which is essentially for refugees from Ukraine. And the cool part is that this is actually a comic book. This is called Comics for Ukraine Sunflower Seeds. And it is an anthology with all proceeds go into Operation USA, which helps out refugees basically around the world. And what kind of raised my eye on this one was the fact that the creator list for this is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh God, yes.
It's got freaking everybody. Let's see. There's cover artists. And yes, artists. There are going to be multiple cover versions for this. Alex Ross, Arthur Adams, Dave Johnson, and Bill Sienkiewicz. Other writers and creators include, oh my gosh, Sergio Aragonis. There's going to be a groove story in this. Kurt Busiek, Howard Chaykin is involved. Josh Dysart's involved. Dave Gibbons, Rob Guillory, John Layman, Gabriel Rodriguez, Stan Sakai, the Simonsons, Jill Thompson, Mark Wade, Matt Wagner. There's going to be a groove story. There's going to be a Scary Godmother story. Astro City, Usagi Yojimbo, Star Slammers, Chew, Grendel, American Flag, and the list keeps going. So this is going to be an absolutely fantastic anthology book, and it is essentially they're crowdfunding it through Zoop, and I will make sure we get a link in the show notes, and it'll be on the website in the Geek News thing, obviously. But yeah, this is nuts, and it's for a good cause. So I am definitely going to try to track this down and pick it up, and I recommend that you do the same.
Yep.
Yeah, I was starstruck when I saw this. I was like, oh my God, there's no. It just the hits keep on coming with all the creators, and so this cannot be a bad book. It's gonna be a great book, and it's for a great cause. So yeah.
Cool.
I saw that also. You had it posted on Discord, which we do have, right?
We do have a Discord, isn't that
Okay.
a coincidence?
I think we do.
But looking at the article, was there any mention as to a price on this?
Not in this article, no.
Okay.
Um,
Because this got my attention, for sure. And I want to make sure that I don't walk past it. I'll probably make sure that I've ordered it from my comic shop. But I was pretty blown away by the cast also.
it's just nuts. And in a completely awesome way.
Yes. Exactly. Okay. My news is kind of surprising as well. Not to that extent, but I think it's kind of it definitely had me raise eyebrows and my eyes almost popped out and everything for a couple reasons. The reason, the story itself, and the second thing is, I'm on Twitter, social media a bit, and this news item hit April 4th, and I saw nothing about this. I came across this through another source or so, just within the last couple of days, and we're recording on the 18th. So, I mean, it literally went like a week that I saw nothing on this. And the news item here is Harrison Ford is taking on a reoccurring role on streaming TV. He's going to TV for the first time in a reoccurring role.
Really?
Now he did some guest stars back in the 60s and 70s, but this is a reoccurring role. It's going to be on Apple TV, which is okay. But the show is called Shrinking, and it stars Jason Segel, will star Jason Segel, who's also producing this along with the producers of Ted Lasso, which has been a big hit from what I have seen. I've not watched the show, but from the responses on social media and all that, it seems like it's a really big hit. So I'm going to have to check it out. But the story it surrounds Segel's character, who is a grieving therapist who starts breaking the rules and actually telling his patients what he really thinks. And apparently by doing this, he finds himself making, quote unquote, huge changes to people's lives, including his own. Now, Harrison will be playing another shrink. The two characters and a third character operate they have their own practice, and Ford's character is kind of a mentor to the other two characters. And his character has been, quote unquote, recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's, which forces him out of his comfort zone as he deals with intrusive friends, his estranged family, and his legacy. This sounds like this could be a really interesting show. And you can see why he signed on, because this sounds like a really interesting character. It's something he hadn't really done before. I mean, he's done a lot of different types of roles, but not something like this. So I'm very curious about this. And they are filming now. I don't think, I'm checking here, don't see anything about when it's actually hitting Apple TV, but I'm sure we'll get that information in the not too distant future. But of course, the article talks about he's already finished up Indiana Jones 5 and all that. So I like it. Now you can see why I was stunned by this. Because I mean, he's going to TV and nobody really mentioned it, or if they did, I don't see how I missed it. But
yeah.
But let's face it, the way things trend nowadays on Twitter is horrible. A lot of them are someone posting, and this actually happened a couple of days ago. They posted a younger picture of Harrison Ford. Said, who is this actor? So everybody starts responding, it's Harrison Ford. Well, his name trends because of that. And it's the same person that does it all the time. He'll throw out a very young a picture of an actor or something like that. You probably can't figure out who this is, and everybody starts guessing on who it is, and all of a sudden that name trends. And then, of course, on top of that, you got the people going, well, I saw his or her name trending, so I thought they died, but they're okay. And then they got to post a GIF of Denzel Washington kind of sitting back in his chair, kind of clutching his heart, going, "Oh, it's a relief." It just, I really hate the way Twitter trends stuff. It just, stuff trends at times. Stuff trends because it's trending. It's just, it's so aggravating.
Very fitting, but yeah, it's still kind of annoying.
So, but I think this would be a very interesting series, and I hope it does well, and I definitely want to check it out.
Yep, sounds cool.
That sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
Don't think so.
No.
Not here.
Okay, we will move on to our regular shout-outs. First of all, I want to thank Pop Goes to Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow shows. Definitely check them out. There will be a link in the show notes. We want you also to check out the fine men and women who make up Potter and Family on Twitter, who've been so kind as to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our links. And the best way to check them out is just go to Twitter, do a search, #Potter and Family, that's one word. Just scroll through what you see there, whatever catches your eye. Please, please, please click on that link and download that episode, and we hope you have a great time listening to them. Thank you guys for your support as always. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. There'll be a link in our show notes where you can check out their fine work. Thank you guys. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. And we value your feedback. Any kind of questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out there. We do have a feedback section in our Discord, so if you want to join us and post your comments or questions, whatever, there, feel free to do so. Social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks, and obviously we are on Twitter, @FellowshipGeeks. Feel free to follow us. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
I appreciate you listening.
Thank you for listening. We do appreciate the support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,